I spent a decade building a friendship just to find out that I never knew the person I was trusting. The last conversation we had ended with him telling me that he wished that we were close enough friends to be able to talk about serious things. Then it hit me in that moment that the person that I spent a decade being friends with was just a mask. A person I would have went out of my way at a point in time to say it was my best friend was showing me only half of them. I can't lie and say that there weren't many signs there and that my other friends didn't point out the red flags. It feels like Gen Z is not the first generation to experience it, but they're the most vocal to speak out about fake friends and just people who aren't really honest in their intentions. And I've always tried to stay on high alert for these type of people, but it really shocked me when one of my closest friends turned out to be exactly that. The last conversation we had showed me something that I didn't know was so common amongst friendships. There was an MIT study where they had people rank their closest friends, and 94% of people assumed that the person they chose was mutual, that the person that they chose as their best friend would also rank them as their best friend. But when the same question was posed to the other friend, only about 53% of the time were the feelings mutual, which means over half of those relationships were one-sided or fake. And in hopes that you don't go down the same path that I did, I want to list out some things that I noticed in my friendship that were true warning signs that I did not take seriously. The first one being, they only reached out when they needed something. You hear this one a lot, but I mean, this is like pattern recognition that I was not utilizing to the best of my ability. I noticed it, but I wrote it off as just like a non-factor, you know? It's not that they're always asking me for something, it just happens to be a good moment to ask me for something. And in the beginning of our friendship, it was hard to notice because they didn't disappear. A lot of fake friends will disappear for months on end and then pop up when they need something. Whereas this friend would always kind of just be around, hanging in Discord, playing video games, or kind of staying in touch in other ways. But whenever he needed something, he expected me to drop everything I was doing to help him. And me trying to be the best friend that I can, I would. I know friendships take a lot of maintenance, and if you don't pay attention to them, then they're bound to just fall apart. But I realized that when I would ask for something, they would always be too busy to help. Or if I didn't initiate the conversation or the text message, then I probably wouldn't hear anything back. And because I low-key knew this in the back of my head, I would always be the one to initiate. I had no reason to think that this person was a fake friend, so I tried to do everything possible to not come to that realization. But there was one moment that's burned into the back of my head. For the sake of this video, I'm not going to say their real name, but I will call them Adam. And Adam had just broken up with his girlfriend. It was like his second year of college, and he was torn up about it. He got way too close, way too fast, and it was his first girlfriend, so he was going through the post-breakup breakdown. And I remember reaching out so many times to make sure that he was okay, because the way that bro was talking about it was kind of like a little Juice WRLD, like all girls are the same, and I just wanted to make sure he was okay. Anytime he asked for advice or a shoulder to lean on, I made sure to drop everything I was doing to be there. I was texting him constantly. I was even offering to get him food because he was just bed rotting and sad all day. I was really trying to do everything in my power to make sure that he didn't get stuck in a bad place mentally. And when a situation arose in my life where I had a family member end up in the hospital for some serious conditions, I was pretty much like breaking down over it because I didn't know the outcome of the situation. Like they had randomly gotten checked into a hospital and their status was like not guaranteed. And I remember reaching out to them because I had texted the entire group chat about what I was going through, and everyone else reached out and said, hey, like we're praying for you, we hope everything gets better. But I had to go out of my way to reach out to Adam, and when I did, it was just to kind of vent about the situation and tell him what I was going through. And I kid you not, the entire conversation lasted about 5 minutes, and it pretty much could be summed up with him telling me, damn, that sucks, and then telling me that he was too busy at the moment to talk, only to find out that he hung up the phone so he could keep playing Balloons Tower Defense. For a lot of people, that would have been the end of the friendship right there, but I tried to give bro the benefit of the doubt. I never want to make my problems someone else's problems, so I kind of brushed it off and was like, hey, this is scary to me, but this isn't really his concern. And this is what you realize, that a lot of fake friends are able to survive in your life because we ourselves make a lot of excuse for their behavior. I think it's partly because we know how tough it is to come across friendship, and to have it in any form feels better at times to not have it at all. Number two, and this may not apply to every situation, but I definitely noticed it in mine, they would always put other people above me. I know this sounds like a toxic girlfriend or something, but it's not. But what I mean by this is that there was other friends that didn't respect him or value him as much, and he would always go out of his way to impress impress them while not really caring about the opinions of his real friends. I always found this to be weirdo behavior, because why are you trying to impress people when you have a solid group of friends right next to you? And there was many moments where he showed his true colors, especially on this point, that I kind of chalked up to like, you know how your bro acts when the girls are around? But thinking about it now, he would do some of the most corny things to impress people that did not care about him or were only using him for what he could do. This might seem petty and not a big deal, but he would always leave the Call of Duty party to join this one particular friend's party that would always talk crap about him behind his back. And on numerous statements, the person that Adam would leave our party to go hang out with would join our party and say, I don't even really like him, bro. He's kind of annoying. But he was so desperate to impress these other people that he never realized that he was taking his actual friends for granted. I don't want to trash him too much, but I've kind of talked about the California trip that I took with my friends back in 2020. And I remember this friend did not partake in the Mary Jane, but he spent over $200 of his own money to bring back Mary Jane for a group of friends that clowned him actively to his face. I never understood this because he would never do that for any of us, but he would go out of his way to impress people that didn't really care about him at all, which kind of goes back to that study. I would have called him my best friend at a point in time, but if you asked him, he probably would have just put me like 10th on the friends list. Number 3, it always felt like I was competing with them. I didn't go to college and I don't try to hide that, but I remember anytime I would accomplish something, they would kind of always put their status above mine. I remember I was working towards an IT certificate because I didn't have any formal education, so a lot of my skills come from me training myself, and learning networking was very difficult for me. The concepts I didn't pick up on right away, and it took me a lot more studying than it would take the average person, I think. And instead of trying to support me through the process or tell me like how he could help me, because you know Adam went to school for this stuff, he would always find ways to undermine or shit on what I was doing, and it kind of felt like it was for his personal benefit. I would always be so excited to tell my friends about what I just learned and how like I could apply it, and you know, the fact that I was actually grasping the material. And instead of being like, damn bro, good job, it would always be met with, well, I can do this. Oh, I been know how to do that. Oh, you're just figuring out how to do that. And because I was already not really confident in my skills on that subject, I would usually kind of tone myself down or feel ashamed for even being impressed on how to do something so simple. I never took it for what it actually was, and it was their ego trying to compete with me when I wasn't trying to compete with anybody. I was just genuinely happy that I was learning. And there was times that I wondered, I'm like, well, if you are so good at this stuff, then why don't you help me? You know, we're supposed to be friends. You called me your friend, but every time I'm telling you that I'm having trouble with something, you're not there to help me. And then when I tell you that I'm actually accomplishing something, you're only there to knock me down a peg. And this wouldn't just stop at like accomplishments. This would go into everything, whether it be finances, video games, anywhere that they could say that they were better than me at, or could just like rain on my parade, they would jump at the opportunity to do so. They would make jokes at my expense, and me trying not to be like soft shelled or be weak, I would kind of just put up with it and think like, this is what friends do, you know? They're supposed to make fun of you at every chance that they get. They're supposed to rain on your parade. Like, that's just how guys are. And it wasn't until another friend in our friend group pointed out like, he's the only one that attacks somebody for doing good. And once he said that, this is kind of what led to like pulling back the veneer of the fake personality they were showing us. But you have to really take people at their word. If their first instinct is to tone you down or make you feel lesser, it's not an accident, it's not a joke, it's not like a playful thing. It's their true intentions flowing through their words. If they didn't feel that or have that in their heart, then they wouldn't be able to express it so easily. I want to take a moment from the list to say that if you have a group of friends that don't have these traits and are actually there for you and you can have conversation with and don't try to play down your feelings, then consider yourself lucky, especially in this time of life that we live in and the amount of effects we see from modernity. It's hard to find people that you can actually invest in, trust, and know will have your back regardless. Like I said before, I feel like the reason that I dealt with this person for so long was because the fact that friendship is not easy to come by, let alone a good friendship that checks all the boxes and is not toxic. So if you have that, cherish it and tell your friends thank you. Number 4, they always assume that I had the worst intentions every time I did something. Even though I went out of my way to be the best friend I could, I tried to give them advice whenever needed, and I tried to support them emotionally as well as make sure they were in the best mental space they could be in. and everything I did was always met with a level of skepticism that I never understood. I always assumed that they had some type of trust issues from childhood that I didn't know about or something, but with us being friends for almost over a decade, I never really understood why they assumed that every time I was doing something, it was from a bad place. If I was to make a mistake, it would never just be a mistake. Or if I was dealing the same jokes they were throwing at me, then my jokes would be seen as malicious, whereas theirs would just be lighthearted. Even though I knew that they would be like this, so I would always tone down my humor or the things that I was saying so I wouldn't have to offend them. I think this by itself isn't the biggest or the easiest thing to notice, but in conjunction with the other issues that I was kind of ignoring, I realized that being around this person, even though I wanted them to continue being my friend and I valued what they offered, felt like that I was walking on eggshells to not make them feel mad at me. It felt like the friendship was only lasting because I was willing to be emotionally manipulated by them, and anytime I put a break on that emotional manipulation or wasn't available for them to vent to or get whatever they needed, then they just automatically assumed that I was doing it out of spite or for some reason that was like out of the blue. It didn't matter how many times I explained myself or showed my true intentions, they always just assumed that I was coming with bad intentions and always led with that. Mind you, this is why I was so confused that our last conversation was them telling me they wish that we could have these close conversations. When from the start of the friendship, I always told them, hey, if you ever want to talk about anything, I'm here, we can talk about it. And even though I felt like I would have to kind of censor myself or walk on eggshells to not make them mad or take things the wrong way, I was still very much willing to help them through whatever problems they had. And for most of the friendship, I was usually the one helping them with the problems they had. And even when they were acting maliciously or doing things with bad intention, I would never assume that and would give them the benefit of the doubt, even when our mutual friends wouldn't do the same. I mean, I feel like the friend group with him included would have been over a long time ago if I wasn't going out of my way to make sure that everyone spoke and that when we did have issues that we talked through them. Because Adam was the type of friend that when issues arise, he essentially will be okay with holding grudges. He was the type of person that would rather hold on to a grudge or keep things in the back of his head than ever actually address them. He would wait till things went bad so he could bring all the problems up in your face at that moment. I mean, the more I talk about all these things, it's like I couldn't tell if he was just a really bad friend or like a fake friend or just a really obvious narcissist. Maybe those two things go hand in hand. And number 5, and I feel like this kind of touches on the first point that I made, but it always felt like they kept me at arm's length. Whenever they had major things going on in life, they would always call on other people to help them. But whenever someone else had major things going on in their life, they would be nowhere to be found. When conversations got too personal or too real, they would pull back right away. And this is where a lot of the manipulation took place, because just like I'm saying that I would have considered them a best friend at a point in time, if you asked them at some point in the friendship, they would have probably said the same thing. But my mind wonders if they would have meant it or would have only said it just to keep up appearances and to maintain the mask they were wearing. And as the years went on and more of their true colors started to show, I knew that I couldn't really cut them off the way that I would a different type of fake friend, because unlike others, we had too much history. Usually I'm good on spotting people who are there for alternative motives or for just not the same purpose that I'm there for, but this friend was really good at disguising himself to make it seem like he wasn't all that bad. And through the process of me trusting the wrong person and having confidence that they were actually my friend, I was oversharing and saying things that I would never tell a person that I didn't actually trust. So it was bad enough that they weren't there to help me through my worst moments, but now they knew more information about me than I was comfortable sharing with anybody else. This always kind of made me feel obligated to treat them better than I had to, because they have all this information on me. And it's not life-altering information, like I'm not a criminal or anything, but it was things that I didn't want people who weren't my closest friends knowing. And when it was beneficial to them, they would put on that mask of actually being a good friend and playing the act. But when it didn't serve them, then it was back to like kind of nonchalant, I care, but not really. And that was probably the most sneaky thing of it all, because yes, they were showing their true colors that they weren't a real friend, but they were also a master at being a chameleon. This kind of makes me think that I wasn't the only person that they were manipulating at this time, and probably today they're manipulating a new group of friends with the same tactics, showing the fake care, making the friendship seem more than what it actually is, and leading with deception rather than honesty. And you can't really build a friendship on on deception. You can't build a friendship about lying on who you are the entire way through. But it's so hard to tell when some people are lying. I mean, some people never master the art of lying. Just like a kid, they'll easily tell on themselves by their body mannerisms or how they act when they tell a lie. And then there's the people you really gotta watch out for who have mastered the art of lying. They won't even flinch, nothing changes. If you put them up to a lie detector, they would probably pass. And this friend was really one of those people. Even when the friendship ended, I was glad that they ended it and not me, because I was worried about the things that they would have over me. And I feel like part of the reason we even stayed friends as long as we did is because in the back of my mind, I knew that my reputation was at risk because this person was kind of like a loose cannon. When they said that they wished that we could have been closer friends, it shocked me, but it didn't surprise me because I spent almost a decade trying to form that close friendship that I thought that we had achieved at one point, only to wake up to the realization that there was nothing real about this person at all. Looking back at everything now, I wish I would have realized this way sooner than I did and didn't waste so much of my time investing into a friendship that in the end of the day was just all smoke and mirrors. But through the process of figuring out who my fake friends were, I realized that I had a lot of real ones in my corner, and that even though that friend was taking me for granted, the rest were appreciating everything that I brought to the table and were the complete opposite of what this friend was like. And while I wasn't happy about what happened, it made me a lot more appreciative for the ones that weren't being fake to me, weren't putting on the mask, and were actually there for me in times that I needed them. Because unlike the friend that turned out to be fake, the real ones never wanted to hold on to a score. They never brought up the times that they helped me. They never needed a reward for being my friend. They were just my friend regardless of the stipulations. And in a world that runs off money and greed, it's very hard to find people who are selfless and can care about you as much as they care about themselves. For the one friendship that turned out to be fake, 5 other friends proved to be real. And even for the fake friend, even though they wasted a bunch of my time, they used a lot of manipulation, gaslighting, and just generally toxic behaviors to maintain a friendship that was not real, I have to even thank them for showing me the signs of a fake friend and what I should be looking out so that I don't get taken advantage again in the future. I like to assume that I can tell people's character pretty well, but after running into this friend and being manipulated for so long, I realized that people like this make it their mission to kind of sneak and maneuver around people. And at the end of the day, it's on me to allow people like that into my life. I don't have to let toxic behaviors into my life just to maintain a friendship. A real friend wouldn't ever put me in that position. I hope you can take away some things from my experience so that you don't have to go through what I went through. But if you've already had a fake friend in your life and had to cut them off, let me know how that experience was for you, because it seems to be like a common trend in this day and age. So leave a comment down below. I do read the comments. What was the moment that exposed that the friend that you thought highly of was actually a snake? If you haven't already, like and subscribe to join the channel. Every subscription feeds my dog a dog treat. And with that being said, thank you for tuning in. Until next time.